What is up, guys? Welcome to the Infinite Ammo Syndicate Spoilercast, the Preemptive Strike Spoilercast for Iron Fist. Basically, you're going to be talking about the show and our thoughts on it. So I guess I should go ahead and introduce myself. I am the co-host, Captain Chaos, and I believe we have with me today, I have Renegade Operative. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, folks. How's it going? We're gonna talk about some Iron Fist, and I have a lot to say about this one. Uh, a lot of meh stuff, but you'll get to that as we go on.
And next we have Say Something Nice.
Hello, hello. Also have a lot to say. This is gonna be an interesting one, I think. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And next up, I can't see him because Discord's being stupid. We have Brandel Sama, Brandel Massa, whatever.
I'll save the best for last. But Iron Fist, yeah, it's just
Yeah, it's a thing. It happened.
Is
Yeah,
it as
yeah.
bad as Agents of Shield though?
that sums it up. I don't know, guys.
Agent Show's not a bad show per se. It's like a in between of like every single movie that came out.
Yeah.
It's kind of hokey.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I hear. Anyways, I guess we should go ahead and get right into it. I guess I'll read off the first question. Before you saw the TV series, what was your formal introduction into knowing about Iron Fist prior to the show? I'll go ahead and say mine because it'll be really quick. I didn't really know anything about Iron Fist before getting into the TV series, so I can't really say much on that, at least before getting into it. I did do some research after the fact, though, and I found out like about the comics and all that and how they were different from the TV series. But before that, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah,
I guess I'll go real quick.
go ahead.
For me, it's the same old thing. Comic books, I read comics, so yeah, I caught on to the characters that way. But other than that, I didn't know a lot about Iron Fist because I don't pick up a lot of his comics, but I do know enough at least.
Yeah, for me personally, it was due to the fact that he was in a show with Luke Cage. I forgot what it was, but yeah, I know there was Heroes for Hire, and that's about it. I wasn't really too formally introduced into Iron Fist. I think this is the first time that I really just heard about him on a grand scale, so I do still appreciate that Netflix takes these heroes that we don't know and they try to convert them into something that is a little bit larger than life. But for this one, yeah, that's how I heard about Iron Fist. I'm probably gonna read his comics a little bit more after this because I do like the lore behind it.
Yeah, same deal. I didn't know a whole bunch about Iron Fist before. Kind of a passing knowledge, like I had the old Marvel Encyclopedia books and stuff like that. And then like a little bit from like Marvel or something like that, Marvel v Capcom. But other than that, not too much outside of the fact that he was in like Heroes for Hire and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. So, somebody want to read the next question?
I can.
All right.
Okay, so what positives and negatives would you give to the first season of Iron Fist? Ooh,
Oh boy.
Ooh, okay, so the first part is going to be tricky.
yeah.
Well, let's start with the positives first because I doubt we have a lot of them. I guess I could go first. If you guys want?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The credit I could give is that it's actually more martial arts based than most of the Marvel shows. Well, Daredevil has martial arts, but not as much. But that also leads into a negative, which we get into later.
Right.
I also like a handful of the characters. I do mean hand, no pun intended. I like Danny for the most part though, but no, some negatives again too. I love Claire. I mean, who doesn't? Um, Crap, I forgot Colin Wing. No, she was okay. Yeah, that's about it. No, that
Yeah.
shit. Madame Dow Gal. No, she's a funny character.
Yeah. Yeah, to jump
That's
on
about it.
that, I liked the same deal that they had kind of pushed a martial arts type of deal for what I assume they're aiming for a mainstream audience, which was kind of cool. It's nice to see that represented. It's kind of coming into more Western mainstream shows. So that was positive. And I too liked a couple of the characters. I didn't mind Ward, and I liked Madame Gao as well. I thought She was pretty cool when she was around and all that stuff. So
Yeah, Ward was cool. You know, he has his moments of being a oh my god character, but no, he was pretty cool.
Yeah,
yeah,
sometimes he was an asshole, which
yes,
I kind of appreciated because he pretty much just put it in stride that he was this pretty much egotistical character. He was doing shady shit. He had problems like everyone else. But I enjoyed that. And I think the side characters really shine in this show, like Colleen and Ward. Some other characters I don't care for much, like who was the chick? Joy? I don't like Joy too
Joy,
much.
oh,
Oh, she was
She's-
terrible.
she's the worst character in the
Oh,
show.
sure.
Joy is straight retarded. I mean, I know we're gonna get the story later, but especially toward the ending, jeez.
Just gotta put that out there. But yeah, the side characters, some of them are well done. I like the fact that they took this martial arts Asian influence and put it into Iron Fist because it really shows that the Netflix shows have a big sense of representation when it comes to showing these heroes. But when we get to the negatives, I mean, we get to a lot of them later. Definitely the fight scenes, we talk about them later. I didn't like them too much. I thought they were just not well done. They lacked impact and focus, and I think that was overall the main problem that made me go, yeah, I'm tired of seeing Danny Rand's stuntman time and time again. Maybe you should have gave him the mask that he has in the comics.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you guys have said so far. I mean, I like the martial arts influence in the show. I like that it's influenced by a lot of that, the Asian martial arts influence. I thought that Ward was actually like, I didn't like him at first, but then I sort of I came to like relate to him a little bit more because he seemed like the more level-headed person in the show. Everybody else is kind of fucking crazy, so I could kind of relate to what he was going through aside from him doing all those drugs, and that was kind of his own fault there. And yeah, I mean, there's not really a lot of positives that I could say about it. I mean, I think that it really does pick up in the latter half of the series. I'll say that. Like, I think that there's a lot more interesting that happens in the show's second half than in the first half. The first half kind of drags, and then the second half, I feel like there's a lot more happening. So there's just a lot more intrigue. And I did like Madame Gao. Like, I liked her at first. I'll say that. But later on, it seemed there's some inconsistencies with her character, I think. But yeah, I mean, I like that there was more of a focus on the hand, because the hand was a threat in Daredevil, and they're kind of the main focus in this show. And yeah, obviously I like characters like Colleen, and but yeah, I have to agree, I didn't like Joy that much. So yeah, there's not really much else I can say. I mean, the intro was cool, I guess. Although it was
Dope intro.
yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of reaching for things at this point, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Real quick though, what do you guys think about literally the Iron Fist though? Whenever that thing popped
Oh,
up,
right, yeah.
it seems
Yeah, I like that. That was cool.
It was
What?
cool whenever
The
they
acting was
decided
good?
to show it. Yeah.
because he never did enough though. I'm like, dude, you could easily knock these guys out with a single punch. Just do it.
I have to get my
Yeah.
chi back. I
He
have to
can't-
get
'cause
my
he can't
chi.
focus 'cause
Oh
he's so
yeah.
angry all the
Well,
time.
okay. Actually, I should kind of. Most of the acting was good. The guy playing Iron Fist, like he's kind of a mixed bag, I think. Because he's good sometimes, and then other times I don't know if it's just his acting or just the writing. I want to say it's the writing more so than the acting, but he's like always going on about how I'm the Iron Fist, etc. And it's
Yeah,
like,
and
shut up.
definitely the writing.
Yeah, that's probably the writing. But
So at the beginning, I was thinking it was the writing, and I remember I even mentioned something to Ren in the chat. I can't tell if it's the writing or if it's him or both.
I think
But
it's both.
As the show
Actually,
went on, I'm not so sure. I think Flynn Jones, who plays Danny Rand, I think he might just be in over his head or something, because some of the stuff that he did was just, I started laughing. Like, it was just comical at points.
Okay,
on.
like Chaos, you know
Yeah.
more about Finn Jones being in Game of Thrones. How is his acting there?
Finn Jones in Game of Thrones, he's much more of a side character, so he doesn't get that much screen time. But when he is in the show, he's not bad. It's just that I feel like he obviously has a bigger role in the show, so I saw more of him. But in this show, I will say he's better in Game of Thrones, but that's probably because he's not playing, one of the lead characters. It's just he's just a side character in that. So in that show he's good, but that's probably just because he doesn't have the, he doesn't have he doesn't have to be like the main character in that, and he doesn't have to, be under the stress of like, okay, how do I deliver this line? What do I do in this scene, etc.
The thing with him in this movie, I'm sorry, in the show, and the reason that every time he came on screen, especially later in the show, is I got frustrated because like when he was doing martial arts, when it was clearly not the stunt double, or when he was trying to be like, I'm a badass, I'm the Iron Fist, he just came off like just like the biggest nerd. And I don't know if it was on purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that'll play okay in the Defenders, if they build off of it in a way where everybody looks at him like, you're a nerd, what are you doing? But in this show, it was just, he was delivering these lines so seriously, but it just looked like, when you were in junior high and there was that kid that thought it was Bruce Lee and would go around school.
Yeah,
like
it
that.
feels forced at times. Like, yeah. I guess I should go ahead and get into the negatives since we're kind of already doing that. Like I said, I felt like the first half of the show dragged, and I felt like they focused way too much on the corporate aspect of it, like the Rand Industries. I felt like they just spent way too much time with Danny, like in the office or dealing with the company. And they could have spent time doing other things other than that, because apparently from what I looked up based on what happens in the comics, that doesn't happen as much in the comics. So
Danny does not care about Rand Industries at all. He does not. He's barely there.
Yeah, and I also had like kind of a problem. I felt like his character, like when he first shows up and he's like going into the building, like Rand Industries, and he's like, "Oh hey, I'm Danny Rand. I know you guys haven't seen from me for like 15 years or so, but I'm here to take over the company again." And he's just this random guy. Nobody's seen him for 15 years, and he expects everybody to know who he is, and he expects to be able to just walk in there and like take over, I guess. And that felt like, I was like, dude, are you fucking? I don't know. He must have been high off his mind, because he's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna come in and just they're gonna know who I am, and it's like. It just felt really stupid. Like I felt like Danny Rand, and sometimes the show does some really dumb things, and it just did not make any sense, like why he would do them. But yeah, he goes in there, beats up some guards, and expects everybody to basically just respect him as like the company owner or something. But yeah, I didn't really care for that.
Can I pick it back off you real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So, I'm actually like the other way around. I think it got more after episode 6 or 7. Because at the beginning, though, it caught me, though. It's showing them building up all the characters and whatnot. But at the end, though, they kind of like lost the translation from paper to big screen.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, it felt rushed, definitely.
Got in though, I thought that would be more interesting, but it kind of gotten more dull.
I don't know. I just felt like there wasn't a lot happening in the beginning, and then like as the show progressed, there was more that happened. Like I was saying, my main complaint was that they showed way too much of the Danny Rand and the company, and that happened a lot in like the first half of the show, and then the second half it wasn't so much of that. So more to do with the hand. So that's why I thought that was more interesting.
Yeah, I think maybe they should have went with the aspect of showing the hand in the beginning, sort of like, because it follows the same format as the other shows. Like, there's a slow build up, but what makes this different is that because Danny is the Iron Fist, he knows Kung Fu, you would expect all this stuff to be interesting in the process, and it's really not. So we have to go off what we have that is a foundation of the characters, and some of them aren't done well. Some of the story just tends to trip up. When we get to the second half, it's like, okay, we have the hand and all this other stuff going on, but then we have some weird shit like Harold coming back, and
Oh
he's
yeah,
like eating hot dogs and he's barfing up his own entrails, and it's like, what's happening? It's like they just
Yeah, that was
totally go
funny.
left, you know. When we get to that part of the story, I mean, it was funny and entertaining to see, but when it comes to
WTL.
yeah, when it comes to actual foundations of storytelling being good, it wasn't that great.
The
yeah. I will say also in regards to the villains too. I thought Madame Gao play was just more interesting in the other series than she was here. Like I like that you learn more about her too, but at the same time, like her powers, she feels like more intimidating because she can use like the force push and all that, whatever the fuck she's capable of doing with the I don't know what her powers are exactly, but it feels like she can use force abilities almost. And then they kind of easily capture her, and she doesn't. I guess the whole thing with her, she like mentally manipulates people, and that was what she was doing throughout most of the show. But she had so many opportunities, like after they caught her, and after she gets brought in by by the hand or whoever by what's his fucking name, that one guy.
Bakudo.
Bakudo, yeah, and she could have
That one
probably
guy.
have easily gotten out of that room, and she
Yes,
just stays in that room the whole time.
She's old.
her objectives were kind of
Uh,
unclear to me for the latter half of the show because,
yeah,
like you said, she had these powers.
yeah,
So if she was trying to run the operation, she didn't escape when clearly she was taken over. But she also
yeah,
seemed like she could have easily escaped. So then her objective was not to run things. Her objective was to what? I couldn't understand what her
yeah.
deal
I don't
was.
know. It felt like they had all this mystery built up around her, but we just but it just never really goes anywhere. Like,
Yeah, I actually get where they were going for it because while she was captured, though, she was still manipulating everybody and playing mind games with everyone, even when she was captured,
But
despite losing her footing.
so it's one of those things where this is a flaw of the show is there should have been a scene there where we see her manipulating Bakudo. Because
yeah.
otherwise, if I'm sitting here as a viewer, I'm like, well, now it seems like Bakudo's the one in complete control.
The
So what's
only
Madame
other
Gao still
time,
doing around?
yeah, like the only other time she tries to do that is when like Danny and like when Danny shows up and they talk to each other. But other than that, like we don't see her actually like doing that to any of the other member or anybody else. So yeah,
And
it's
they
just not
were
entirely
very
clear.
specific towards Danny than anyone else, for obvious reasons, of course. But still, they could have like done more. Like maybe it could like have more like her playing other people's head outside that episode where they were in the dojo and she was
Yeah,
poisoned and whatnot.
And that episode was interesting too because maybe they just didn't have time. Because when she's trying to get in like Claire's head, she gets Claire in like 5 seconds. Like there was like no pushback or whatsoever. Claire just kind of bought in immediately. So actually, I don't know that much about the character. Does she have the ability to like put people in a mental state that they're weak or something? Or because it just seemed like
yeah.
that whole scene, everybody was super weak-willed when we've
It
seen these
seemed like
characters be super strong before.
Yeah, it seemed like because they didn't explain their like her powers, they could just pretty much do anything they wanted with her. It's like, well, we don't gotta actually tell you what she's capable of doing, so she can just do anything. And I don't know, I just felt like that was kind of just bad writing.
All
But
right, gentlemen, we need to
I
move on to number three.
one more thing, one positive I will say that I kind of forgot to mention is I did actually like Harold, like just his character. He gave me this Norman Osborn vibe kind of, but it never really got there. But I did like him as a villain, even though some of his decisions at the end of the show were kind of dumb. But yeah,
But
he was all right.
before we move on, can we just talk about the last negative, which is how awful the action in a action martial arts show
Oh right, yeah, I
was?
completely forgot.
Oh my
Because
god.
the
So
action the
sorry.
action I wrote in my notes because I was taking notes, and at one point I just lost my mind, and I wrote my notes that the action reminded me of the non-masked parts of Power Rangers. So like the original Power Rangers show, where it wasn't the Sentai footage that they were borrowing, but like the American actors. That's how bad this show seemed to me at times, and I would even take that over the action in this martial arts show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's moments where I can recall just seeing stuntmen 2,000 times. It's like, okay, I think it would have been best if Danny had the mask, because then you don't have to worry about that stuff. I mean, when it comes to the Daredevil fights, Matt has the mask, so it's really hard to see his face, and when you do see his face, it's so concealed in a way that it's really hard to tell if it's the actor or if it's the stuntman. So I think that's the problem there. If they would have put on the mask, because they had this snippet of Orson Randall running around with the Iron Fist mask, then maybe they would have alleviated that problem.
Well,
Yeah.
even when they had scenes that were okay as far as having the stuntman in, they would still do quick cuts, which is like the worst thing that you could possibly do in a martial arts scene.
Yeah,
is,
quick cuts. It,
like,
it's
jumping from
second
cut to
worst.
cut
Editing
to
was
cut.
bad.
Yeah, it's second worst to shaky cam. It's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did the editing and the choreography was really just not that good. And
Oh,
like
the
you said,
choreography was terrible.
they used the stuntmen. It really should. I don't know how they can go from Daredevil to that. You know, like I just don't know what happened.
They just, I mean, we'll get to it later, but if they ever go forward, they need to hire better martial art scene
Martial
directors.
artists.
Because, well, martial arts would be great, yeah. But even just to fix with what they have, just get better directors. Because then they would even go between like kind of fast combat to like traditional combat, to where even sometimes it looked like they were doing wire work type stuff. And it was just this glob, and it was very confusing. And I don't know. I didn't understand it. They could even hit poses. Like, I'm sure Flynn Jones can hit a pose, like in the old, 70s chop socky things, where like you hit a pose and then you hold it for a second. That'd been fine. But man, sometimes I had to stop watching for a second, because I was like, this is awful.
Yeah. All right. So we should probably move on to the next question. Somebody want to take number 3? Yeah, number 3. Well,
Yeah.
if nobody.
No, I got it.
Yeah.
So, despite the overwhelming criticism of the first season, do you think there should be a season 2? I'll go ahead and jump in real quick. Honestly, I mean, we'll skip ahead to final thoughts. For me, I don't recommend this show to anybody. And if it's going to be the same cast and the same crew and like the same mindset, personally, I would not be watching a second season. I am excited to see Iron Fist in Defenders, though, because I think that gives him opportunity to do something else. What do you guys think?
I mean, I agree with
For
that. I
me-
think he would be better in Defenders, because there's all the different heroes or anti-heroes he's gonna be with, and they may have good chemistry with them, so it'll be interesting to see them interact with each other. As for season 2, like I feel like they could improve. If they look at the criticism from season 1 and see what people are saying, and see, okay, well, maybe the fight scenes for the first season weren't so good, and try to improve that. I can only hope that they improve that in season 2. I do hear that he's going to don the costume in season 2 as well, so I'm interested to see that, at least, because like I have not read the comments or the comics, so I don't really like. I know about the costume, so I'm interested to see him like actually wear it. And he hadn't done any of that in season 1, and I know why they were trying to do the whole Daredevil thing, where it's like this is just the sort of like his origin story, sort of. Well, not really his origin story, but like the they're building up to that. But I like the cliffhanger it left off on. I feel like it's setting up for some interesting stuff to happen in season 2 with Kamlan, maybe them potentially going back to Kamlan, fighting the Hand. Some new villains to pop up. I'm interested to see what'll happen. Oh right, yeah, Kamlan is gone. Yeah, fuck, I forgot about that. So, but yeah, fight the Hand some more. I don't know what else to expect from season 2. I mean, I'm sure Bakuto might come back. So, I don't know. I wasn't really disappointed enough in season 1 to not want to watch season 2, I guess. I would still recommend this show to people, but I would say definitely watch the other shows first before watching this one. I feel like this is one you really need to watch last. Watch Daredevil.
Speaking, you should.
Uh-huh.
You should watch this last. Like, you gotta watch Daredevil season 1, and then watch Jessica Jones, then season 2, then Luke Cage and whatnot.
Yeah, chronologically, this show was last.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, well, that's also a good order to watch it into, is to watch it last. Don't don't go into this one first in general. I mean, you can really watch it in whatever order you want to. I don't think you need to watch it in a certain order, but I would recommend definitely just watching this one last because it is definitely the weakest one. Not terrible, but not, not amazing. It's pretty much just average.
All right. Well, for me, this show is like literally stuck in limbo. While I hope it gets a second season and maybe for it to improve though, but it may get season two because no, for story reasons it could get season two. But honestly, I don't even know at this point because they never say anything about it getting season two immediately. Because whenever Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and not Iron Fist, Daredevil came out and did well, like in the first week or so, they immediately confirmed season two. They haven't done that so far.
I actually thought they were alluding to season two, but
They're
I
loading
don't know.
Defenders. Okay, that's next after Iron Fist.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it also depends on how well Defenders does. I mean, if a lot of people like Defenders, huh?
You know, Defenders are going to get season two.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I feel like if Defenders is really popular, then pretty much all of these shows are getting. Well, we pretty much know every show out of these is getting a season two except for Iron Fist so far.
I think Defenders is pretty much confirmed that the A-Team is behind this. So the showrunners who did Daredevil is doing Defenders, and that's going to be really good. For now, about Iron Fist getting a season 2, yeah, I have to agree with Brandon. It was not that popular, so they didn't announce a season 2 right out of the gate. I think personally the show alludes to it, but I don't know. It could be tricky. They could just say, we'll have Iron Fist do Defenders, and that's it.
That
we don't have to make a
bullshit
season
if
2.
they ended off on that cliffhanger.
Yeah, but I mean, they could always just gloss over it. Oh, it didn't do well. Let's put him in other stuff where he's working with other people.
Are they going to act like that didn't happen in Defenders if they?
They could work like a line, or two in, and say, hey, have that thing work out, and try and do it that way.
Yeah, true.
Being a Defenders next though, a lot of the other shows left on cliffhangers. Like for example, season 2 of Daredevil, he revealed himself to that blonde demo. Luke Cage, he went to prison. In Georgia. And Jessica Jones, what happened there again?
Jessica Jones really didn't have as much of a like really strong ending, I would say. I mean, it's at least I will say that's better about Iron Fist too. I mean, than Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones kind of I mean, I liked it, but it wasn't like it didn't like blow me away or anything. It didn't kind of leave me hanging like some of these other ones.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm saying is that they will probably tie in loose ends with Defenders and then continue on with their own stories again with season 3, season 2, and whatever.
Yeah, that's probably what will happen.
Yeah, I think if Iron Fist goes off well in Defenders, then what's going to happen is they're probably going to do Heroes for Hire, which is him and Luke Cage. Yeah, I think they'll just say, they work better. The actors like play off each other, so they might just do something like that where it's like, oh well, he doesn't do well in his own show, so he can have someone else to play off, which is Luke Cage.
Oh, he gonna fuck everything.
Mm.
Okay, so we should probably move on to number 4. Somebody want to take number 4?
I'll do it. What do you think they could have personally done to improve on things like the fight sequences? Get a better director or get better martial artists?
Yeah.
Like simple.
Yeah. The editing, like I said before, it would be cool if they could do like the continuous shots like they were doing in Daredevil, where they just had the whole like fight just like as one scene. The general fight choreography was not as good as it was in some of the other shows. I feel like obviously that could have been improved upon. Just make it less obvious that like, they're using the stunt doubles and that that the fights are so poorly choreographed. I mean, they just need to improve upon that. It's pretty just simple things that they could have easily, found a solution for. But I just felt like that was definitely the worst aspect of the show, and it's not good when the fight scenes in a show that's kind of based around martial arts is like the worst, the worst thing about it.
Yeah,
Quit
So,
I
though.
mean, pretty much everything. Just to kind of go ahead.
I was saying, like, real quick though, another thing that irritated me was the sword fights because they were so impractical that it made me cry a little bit,
Yeah.
even
Didn't he at
more
one
than the
point
martial
grab
arts.
the blade of a sword or something like that?
No, it just
I
looked really like fake. Like that whole fight with Colleen and the security guard or whatever at the gate when they were at China or something. I mean, I like Colleen, but that fight just looked fake and clearly choreographed, and it wasn't good. It was slow paced, and it feels like that's how a sword fight wouldn't play out. You know what I mean?
they took the Star Wars prequel approach to the sword fight.
Yeah,
So
where
like,
it's clear,
They're
it's
dancing.
choreographed.
no, they did it worse.
so
Star Wars make it look fun.
I went to look up some of the actors as best I could, because I watch a ton of kung fu movies, and I kept seeing people that I was like, I think I've seen this person before. I think I've seen this person in something before. And so like the drunken boxer that he fights he was like a samurai in another movie, and so I saw him in another movie, and he's great in that movie. But in this, like the fight was very slow. It was very boring. And I guess it just has to come down to the directing or something, because just every single fight and any time that Flynn Jones was clearly visible, you could see the gears turning in his head. He's like, okay, I'm going to pose here. Okay, I'm going to do this. And it was just, like I said earlier, it's just like Power Rangers level stuff. It was kind of tragic.
Yeah, I see what you say. What you're saying with that? Yeah, definitely. You could tell. You could tell when he's like, "Oh, right, I need to do this now." It's just really obvious. Yeah, definitely bad directing. I think that's mostly to blame for the fights being as bad as they are. And then as the actors might be good. They might be really good, but the writing and the directing. If you have bad writing and if you have bad director, that can really kill a film or like a TV series.
And
So,
they need to know that like fight directing is different than acting, action directing like with guns, and is different than drama directing. Like they need to make sure they get directors doing these episodes that understand how to do choreography and understand how to shoot and all that stuff. They need to get editors that understand all that stuff the way that they did with Daredevil, because like you said, Daredevil's phenomenal. And they even had scenes, because I know Ren and I were talking about this on the chat, they even had scenes that were clearly homages to like other things. Like the scene in the elevator seemed very I'm blanking. Oh no. Where they're in a building and it's really brutal.
I think I know what you're talking about. It is that
It's
when
like
they
Cambodian
Old
or
Boy?
Thai.
Old boy?
Not
Old Boy.
not Old Boy.
Okay.
Oh gosh, I can't believe this is happening.
The Raid?
The Raid. Yeah, there you go. The scene in
Okay.
the elevator reminded me of The Raid, that kind of close quarters, tight camera.
Mm.
Clearly they understood, their homages and stuff, but they just couldn't execute it.
Yeah, I think the problem was the fights didn't feel like they had that high impact. Like someone's actually getting hurt, like Daredevil. Someone gets thrown through a table, someone gets thrown out of a window, some guy gets like stabbed, some other guy gets like a microwave thrown at his head. It feels brutal, and Iron Fist does not have this. It feels like, it feels like Finn Jones is dancing around like a puppet, doing all these moves when you see his face and it's like not him. So it's really distracting. I want to say it took me out of the experience like hardcore, and I just couldn't understand why they would do something like that when they did something like Daredevil. It's like I think there was a bar of expectations, and Iron Fist did not meet that at all.
Yeah. So if anybody else doesn't have anything else to say, we can probably move on.
Well, I got one thing to say. Just get the Captain America team, and voila, magic.
Oh yeah.
The
Captain
MCU.
America has some of the better fights, and yeah, I definitely agree.
especially Winter Soldier. That fight on the
That
highway,
opening on the boat.
yeah, the boat, the
Yeah.
highway, incredible.
Elevator scene,
Yes.
the ending, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let me go to number 5. Do you think the show had any comic accurate moments that you approved of, or did they disappoint you entirely?
Not that I know of. Like, I'm not a big
I can't
comic book
comment on
reader
this
for
because I
Iron
haven't read
Fist.
the comics.
Yeah,
I
I
know
got
some
nothing.
stuff like Steel Serpent being what's his face, Davos. He's the main villain of Iron Fist. So it was cool to see him kick ass. I really liked this actor too. And then there was stuff about, Kung Lung and the hand. And I like seeing the hand again in this show. And then there was the stuff with the dragon. I think what disappointed me the most was the fact that we didn't see Danny get his powers at all, like
Yes.
the comics. It was like,
No,
this
no
guy,
healing chi. No, none of that.
yeah, none of this. And it's like, okay, he doesn't find out how to heal people until like episode 10 or 11, I believe. It's so late. And it's like he's the living weapon, the immortal Iron Fist. He doesn't know how to control his powers. All the cool moments just seem like squandered for him saying, "I don't know how to gather my chi yet. I don't know how to center the power of the Iron Fist." And it's
That's
it's like a missed opportunity,
that's one thing that even though I didn't read the comics, I will say was really weird about his character. It was like he's supposed to be like this really great weapon of Kung Lun, and he's supposed to be like this really intimidating, like the best weapon they have against the hand, and yet he doesn't know how to control his powers. The Iron Fist only comes out occasionally, and he's like he's good at martial arts, but it's just like he mostly just seemed like a normal dude aside from the whole Iron Fist thing,
And for some
and his
reason,
powers, but
for
he
some
doesn't get
reason,
that till later.
like he's supposed to be this martial arts master, in like traditional like meditative martial arts, and they show him training, and they're like, you need to dispel all your emotions and all this stuff, and he's like the angriest person at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wait, what? I thought, because when he first shows up, he seems like he's supposed to be kind of worldly and very zen, but then as the show goes on, he's just angry all the time. And then he shakes like a chihuahua.
Yeah, that's he came off more like well, not really so much like Daredevil, but Daredevil even is more of a calm person than fucking Danny Rand at some points.
Yeah.
So
What would be interesting though, but this won't happen at all. If they actually had Sabretooth in this show. Because Sabretooth's first appearance was in Iron Fist, if I remember correctly.
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
they probably couldn't get away with that though, right? Because of licensing laws.
Fox, yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. It really sucks.
That
Fox.
sucks so hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess if that's unless we have anything more to say about that, we can
Yeah, we can move on.
number 6. Somebody want to read off number 6?
I can do it.
Okay,
hold
go ahead.
on. Let me see here. Who is your favorite character in the first season of Iron Fist?
I'll say Ward.
I say either Ward or Colleen, hands down. I can't think of many other than those two that were very captivating, in my opinion. I think Colleen stole the show.
Can we just from now until forever exclude Claire from these discussions? Because she would be my favorite, but I'm not going to include her because
she's in so many shows.
She's in all these shows, but she's always awesome.
Yeah, I mean I like Claire, but definitely Colleen was my favorite.
I would go with a Ward too. I liked Ward the best.
Ward. I liked Ward. I think some of his decisions were stupid. Like I understood. I almost to some extent understood why he did take the drugs. Like I guess because he has trouble coping with his fucking father coming back to life.
Yeah, that crazy.
All
shit.
this crazy shit that's going on.
And his whole life. I mean, I thought it was an interesting character, but like his whole life, he kind of reminded me a little bit of Cottonmouth in the sense that he's this guy who is put in charge, but who is kind of a puppet and can't really deal with that in a way. And so that's why he takes the drugs and stuff. But like you mentioned earlier, he seems kind of like the coolest head And then when his dad shows up again after he's died, his dad's like, "Do you think I'm a monster?" And he's like, "Well, yeah. I stabbed you and you came back to life. Of course you're a monster."
Yeah. I almost can't
Like,
blame him
no,
for
the thing
doing
that I
that
like
too.
about
I was
the thing that I like about
I actually
Ward
was rooting
is
for him when he picked up the knife. I was like, "Please stab him. Don't bitch out right now." And then he stabbed him. I was super stoked for him. I was like, "Cool, man." And he was, he was going to get out the game.
Yeah, Ward is definitely like he tries to get away, and then he realizes because his father continues to come back, he'll never be able to escape. You know?
I mean, could you imagine, like, you hate this person, you stab him and kill him, you think you're good to go, and then he comes back, and he's like, "Well, guess what? I can't die."
Yeah.
man, burn his body. Oh wait,
Yeah, I know.
So I
why
guess
I like Ward
yeah.
is like he's like a roller coaster. I didn't like him at first because he was a prick. Then I started liking him though when you started getting to know the character more. Like you see that he has a sense of responsibility and control and whatnot. And then he went off the handles. And then he became like an inevitable good guy, trying to help Danny from being assassinated by the DEA or whatever. The direction they took with him, like he had high, and low, and ultimately end up with a good high.
He was really
Pretty
kind of the
much.
only interesting. I mean, he was really the only dynamic character that I can think of off the top of my head. Colleen,
Yeah,
I guess
Oh,
too.
well, Iron Fist is
he
dynamic.
probably went through the most development.
He's
Actually,
angsty a lot.
yeah, that's the thing about
Yeah.
Danny Rand is the angst shit. Yeah.
I just Danny Rand. Well, I guess we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the next question. I'm staring right at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Might as well go on to that one if nobody else has anything to add. Somebody want to read off the next
We
one?
can move on.
Yeah, I got
Read
this.
it off again, Rin.
Say something nice has it.
All right. Who's your least favorite character in the first season of Iron
okay.
Fist? And there are
Joy.
so many to choose from.
Joy.
Joy. Joy.
Joy toward the end of the
Joy.
show was so. Again, I'll go back to my notes. I typed this. I'm not kidding. I typed this 4 times. Joy is fucking stupid. How stupid can Joy be? How is Joy this stupid? Oh my god, Joy is so stupid. Like when her dad comes back and he's clearly crazy, and then Ward shows up and is like, "I've been dealing with him for so many years. He's crazy. You need to bounce." And she's like, "You lied to me though." It's like you just saw, like, your dad snapped at you 3 times already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
she
she
took
clearly
his
saw him do
side
that.
over Wars. And then at the end, we
Yes.
have her going against Danny for no reason, even though Danny
Oh,
helped her
man.
and saved her life. And
Oh,
I'm
when I
like,
saw
what the
that-
fuck?
When I saw that, I was like, what? Like, so because she found out that she killed her dead father, that should have been dead, but he's permanently dead now, and she's like, oh, I want revenge on Danny, so I'm gonna enlist the help of the Hand and have him fucking go, have them go after Danny. It's the dumbest setup, I swear, for like season 2. I just, that's one thing I'm not looking forward to, because she's pretty much that solidified my opinion of her as her being stupid. I just really don't like her character, especially for that.
And there was such an inconsistency because the Meachums were to believe that the Meachum kids, I mean, Ward has been coached by his dad, but we're to believe that they're running a very successful business, yet
Yeah.
they're both this stupid.
Yeah, they put Danny in like the fucking mental asylum, and Joy does that thing. Like, the only thing that I thought was like kind of I did think was okay about her is she tried to confirm his identity. I was like, oh, okay, well, she's actually, she's trying to help him out, and then meanwhile Ward doesn't really care. So it's like she, I could give her that. She tried to get him out of that situation, but
Yeah, and
that's really the most she's done.
She was like, I mean, I don't want to go into the corporate stuff too much because I think we all agree that was kind of the slowest part of the show. But when they took the company from them and they were like, we'll give you each, what was it, like $100 million or $150 million, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To walk when you have nothing to stand on. And Ward was like, yeah, that's okay. That's the right move. But she was like, nah, this is our company and we're going to do all this stuff. And I don't want to sign.
Yeah.
I want to
And
fight
to this-
back. Yeah.
To this point, she had been shown to be very business savvy and all that stuff, but again, just kind of the writing was really inconsistent. And
Yeah, it's like she went
She's
from
an
that
idiot.
into, sort of like, oh well, it's our company, but it's like, but you don't have any like they said that you don't have anything to use against them in like a lawsuit or anything. So how would you get it back?
Well, then later we find out that
Jessica Jones.
she has like dirt later on. Like, oh well,
Oh yeah, because she got it
so-
illegally. But
Yeah.
okay, we're going on.
She got it from Jessica.
We're going on
that's why.
stupid writing tangents now, but she has dirt on a guy who is now the chief of what's supposed to be one of the richest companies in the world, and it seems like the dirt is prostitution or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
come on, fam. In real life, like that gets covered up real quick, no problem.
pretty
Like that
much.
CEO's like, oh, okay, well, I'll pay people, and it'll never see the light of day.
Well, hey, luckily enough, they had fucking Harold there to make sure he couldn't do
Sure
any of
did.
that.
That was an interesting scene. Yep. And he even said that he's like, cool, run with it. I got this. But then Harold, shot him.
yeah. Anybody else that did?
I will say, and maybe it's a little bit different than you guys, but Danny was a close second for me.
Yeah, no, I actually kind of agree with that. Like, his Danny he could be insufferable at times. Like, it really annoyed me sometimes with like
Yeah.
the way he acted.
I just
Seemed like an
wish
angry
that.
teenager. Like,
Yeah, I just wish that he wasn't so angry and pissed off.
Yes.
And it kind of contradicts because it's like, he's this monk who trained in a monastery for like 14 years. You would figure he has a grip on himself, but he doesn't. And every time he always snaps, oh, I gotta get my chi back. I'm so pissed off. And it's like, dude, you're a monk. You're supposed to be control of yourself.
So I
She
came
got a
up,
question.
Hmm?
Oh, you go ahead, say something nice.
I just, when I was sitting here thinking, and toward the end of the show, I was trying to reconcile with how they could make it fit at least. And the only thing I come up with, and it wouldn't work with the corporate thing, but I'll bounce this off you guys, is I thought, what if they made everybody younger? Like, what if they were 16, 17 instead of adults?
sense.
At least their irrational behavior would make sense in that context.
Yeah.
And then I could go, okay, they're just
They're in
dumb
their early
kids.
20s, maybe. Yeah,
I think
early
mid 20s
that could
actually.
work.
Well, some of them are maybe.
But for a grown-ass man to be literally shaking like a chihuahua because he's angry at something.
It was
All the
kind of
time.
funny. It was just
Well,
funny.
his hair didn't help either. The type of hair he has, because it's really obvious when he's shaking.
Yeah.
It's got
Yeah,
like
it's
that
funny you
ramen.
mentioned that, Brendan. He's pretty much Anakin in the show too. So.
And
All right, I guess we can move on to the next one. So I'm gonna read
question.
this. Yeah, this is number 8. So if they don't continue a season 2 of Iron Fist, what spinoff would you like them to pursue with the characters of that universe? So I said this before, but Heroes for Hire, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, that would be great.
Yeah.
Maybe Daughters of the Dragon with Colleen Wing and Misty Knight, because that's the thing in the comics as well. They become
pretty
like
dope.
the best friends. So either one of those two will be fine in my opinion.
Yeah,
this thing that irritates me though about Defenders though, it should not be called Defenders. It should have been called Heroes for Hire because all of them are Heroes for Hire. They joined up becoming Heroes for Hire. Not just Luke Cage and Danny Rand. They actually have other people who joined that type of organization. It should have been called that, not the Defenders, because the Defenders is completely different from what they got now.
Yeah, isn't it like in the comics where they have like other people in the Defenders that actually was in the Avengers?
The Avengers,
know.
but they handle more, I guess, supernatural threats. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I know they had some big time heroes for sure that definitely
Yeah,
wasn't in the
Hulk,
Defenders
I'm
now.
pretty sure they won't
Yeah.
show up in the show though because
nope.
legal
Yeah,
issues and all
crossover
And
stuff.
what Defenders-
because they don't have that kind of money.
that. Same
Yeah.
reason why the Logan wasn't like exactly like Old Man Logan. So, I mean, that's it would have been interesting if it was though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I have to throughout I could say this for every show, but I mean, I'd love to see Claire get a show because she's always dynamic when she's on screen. But no, I agree. A Heroes for Hire with just the two, because I know that they've done some, and maybe you guys could speak on this a little bit more than I, but I know that they've done a Heroes for Hire kind of reboot fairly recently. That was like they kind of had to get back into the game. You know, I wouldn't mind if they kind of went to the future. Then you have a chance to maybe pick different actors, which would be kind of interesting, and do something kind of like that. Just give it a little bit more intrigue than what we had here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be like just entirely interesting. Maybe, you know, I mean, it's not too late to salvage what they have now with Iron Fist. If Defenders goes well, they just have to take that initiative to improve from there and see what they can do with it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't really doubt that there will eventually at least be a season 2, but yeah, I would like some spin-offs as well, especially since I don't read the comics and I don't really know much about the spin-offs. But I guess I'll go ahead and take the next question. Number 9. It was stated in various interviews that Danny Rand would be a better received character in the Defenders. Do you think those comments will come into fruition with another team working on this character? I would say so. Yeah, I mean, especially if it's the team that worked on the Daredevil show, then yeah, I feel like they could definitely do that character justice. Like I said, like, you know, the problems with Iron Fist were the writing and just the editing and all the other stuff that, you know, stuff that was done better in Daredevil. So I feel like, yeah, they could definitely, had this character been better written and had, you know, the editing and all the other stuff, you know, the choreography had been better, I feel like Iron Fist could have been much better than it, you know, turned out to be. So, you know, yeah, I feel like he could, but there is a lot of potential for him to be decent in the Defenders. All, you know, the only other factor in that is just the actor himself. Like, can he actually, you know, pull off a better performance in that show as opposed to Iron Fist?
I think what they could do if they sit around and they realize that maybe Flynn Jones was the wrong pick, but they're afraid of switching it up, they could play off of it. And so take his ridiculousness and his seriousness and his anger and have the other members of the team, you know, kind of make fun of him about it. Like, he could be the straight man to their stuff, which I think would work great with like Luke Cage for sure. But also Daredevil and all that stuff. So I'm excited to see him in Defenders.
Speaking of the straight man thing, actually, didn't they have that one scene in the trailer where he was like talking to all the other characters and he was like, you're this and you do that, or you're this and you do so and so.
Yeah, he was like describing them in detail.
Like, I feel like that's kind of what he was doing in that part of the trailer. Like, he pretty much was playing the straight man in that case. And so I don't know. I would like to see more of that in the show if that's going to be like a thing.
It could make for some very entertaining and hilarious moments because, I mean, if you have Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and Iron Fist and Daredevil, you know, they all have different personalities. So because of this, I think just bouncing that off each other is the best way to go. This is why I think that Defenders is going to go well, because even if Iron Fist had a bad show, he has people to play off when it comes to personality. So I don't think that even if he is bad, it's going to be a big hindrance to the show, because there's so many people there that you want to see so much crazy shit happening, that they're going to go in this direction where so much stuff is happening and the user is pretty much enticed by it.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else had anything to say about that.
I guess we can move on to
not,
number 10.
Yeah. Who wants to read that?
All right, so I'll take it.
I guess I can.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
How did you feel about the pacing of the show?
Horrible. This is fucking horrible.
Sporadic?
Yeah. It had its ups and downs for sure. Once again, I don't think that the origin story should even be a thing anymore when it comes to the Netflix shows, because it's like sometimes people want to just jump into the action. They don't want to wait for like 5 or 6 episodes until things pick up. I mean, for Daredevil, it was okay. Hmm?
Then it depends on the character, and because not the Iron Fist is not as famous as a lot of characters. Like say Spider-Man, for example, he had a lot of movies. There's no need for another origin movie. Just say this happened and move on.
Oh yeah, definitely for the more
So we kind of
complex
do need.
people, they deserve more shows. I agree. But when it comes to people like Iron Fist, where the story is bare bones, it's about a guy who punched a dragon in the heart and got a flaming fist on his hands. I think that could be like 8 episodes tops.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, they're definitely. Like I said before, I really didn't care much for the first half of the show because of the whole, like, all the stuff with the company, Rand Enterprises, and I feel like there was just too much time spent there. Um, the interesting stuff does happen later on, and there are parts where the show kind of picks up and then it drops off again, and then it just picks up again, and it just kind of felt a little sort of all over the place in terms of pacing. I really would have liked it to be more consistent.
yeah, it all just comes back to writing, which we've been harping on for a while. It's just the
Yeah.
writing. It lacked focus. Like whatever happened to those girls that were like selling that drug? I thought they were going to be a bigger deal. The
Oh
drug
yeah.
thing that kind
Yeah,
of goes
stuff that you
away.
thought would be like a huge issue, like kind of gets downplayed, and
Yeah,
then it gets dealt with really quickly. And then there was a whole thing with the hand and them having the school that they had to teach kids martial arts, and Colleen was connected to it, and it like that's where things started to slow down again, and after things had just gotten interesting, and I mean that was interesting. Don't get me wrong, but uh, yeah, I don't know. It's I just
like you said, it's just over the map.
yeah.
honestly, I found that whole school thing was a missed opportunity to actually have like good guys hand people, because at the end of the day, though, the hand is still the
I
hand
felt like that's
for
what
the
they were trying to
shows.
do with that too. Like,
Like, like real quick though, the
yeah,
problem is though, like it's pretty much saying like the hand is still the hand, like nothing's going to change though, which kind of sucks though because if they actually have a good branch and whatnot, have them actually join up with Danny, take out the bad people. I mean, come on, that's like a good opportunity to have different organization.
hmm yeah. I mean that, and by extension, Bakudo too was sort of a missed opportunity because I felt like they were actually going to make Bakudo sort of like a kind of a good guy in a sense. I thought that's what he was, but then later on he just kind of turns evil. Uh, because it seemed like he had good intentions. That's what confused me, and it seemed like he was also at odds with Gao. So
And it was
I don't
another
know.
opportunity for a well-rounded character, but they just rushed it.
Yeah.
Had me hooked when I first saw him, and we came back and helped Danny learn the healing chi part. I'm like, oh yeah, this
Mhm.
guy's cool. And then look what happened. He's a hand guy. He's going to kill somebody. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I mean, there was also all that mystery around like why he had that footage of the old Iron, like Iron Fist, and like I don't know, like there was so much stuff about him that we just didn't know much about, and like he could have been just such a like such much more of an interesting character. I mean, maybe they'll expand on that in season 2, but season 1 like had all this stuff that they just never really went into about him, and like we said, they rushed his character and they made him into some just villain like near the end of the show. Um, I felt like they could have just done much more with his character, made him just more complex, but they just didn't do it.
Yeah, missed opportunity character.
I
Most
agree.
definitely agree.
Yeah. Anyways, I guess we should go into number 11. I'll read that one. How did you feel about the villains?
Disappointed.
Okay. I
Except for
mean,
Gal.
I
I
already
love
said my
Gal.
opinions on Gao, and we just talked about Bakudo. Yeah, we went into Harold too a little bit. Harold was probably the best one, I guess, if you're comparing it to the other ones in
he
terms of
had
just
a lot more personality, but
yeah.
his motives and
I,
intentions are just last minute as well. Because it's like,
hmm
he rolls
you
up
know,
into Rand Industries and takes it over.
The thing that disappointed me with him though, like when he came back to life though, I liked him beforehand because he was an interesting character. He was a somewhat of a father like figure to Danny, also being addicted to his own son. I like that narrative though, but when he made him come back and made him crazy, which makes sense though, plot wise doesn't make sense though, but I feel like that kind of dragged his character down.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
and
go ahead.
he kind of gathered his wits too quickly for me too, because when he resurrects, he's like an empty husk pretty much, and he can't really remember things, and he's like a weirdo. And then an episode later, he's back to being, intelligent and kind of good to go, just a little bit extra aggressive this time. So I would have it would have been interesting if he still was trying to find himself, or if Ward, I don't know, because I don't know that much about the comics, but I thought maybe what was going to happen was
wait,
Ward
he
was going to
can
kind of turn
be-
the tables on him or something.
You guys gave me an idea
What were
though.
you gonna
That'd
say,
be interesting if he became a good guy.
That would've been
Ward
interesting.
turned to more likable, father to him. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it would have happened because I think even in the comics, Harold did kill Danny's parents. So either way, I think it would have been him trying to go and get revenge on Harold eventually. Granted, it happened in different ways compared to the comics and the show because it's like, he doesn't get revenge on him until after he comes back to the city and finds out about what's going on with Harold and he tries to get revenge then. Danny doesn't know in the show about Harold at all. He doesn't know what's happening and then they tell him he's dead and then he's like, oh, well, shit. So I think that he is an interesting persona, but they did sort of make him, have missed opportunities with the whole reviving and being crazy. Man, Harold was quite the character.
Yeah. He's also just not really as much of an intimidating villain either because, like, all his powers are just he can resurrect and come back.
That's
Yeah.
what the hand member that was that actually went under the process of resurrection, like currently Elektra. If you remember from season 2, she's gonna get resurrected. If not already had.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would have preferred though if Danny fought someone that was on par to him instead of just this
Yeah, that would have been a
businessman,
lot more. That definitely would have been a lot more of an interesting climax for the show. But instead,
because there
it's
was
just,
like Davos, and he is the Steel Serpent. So I mean, him and his friend, and then Danny just beats him out of nowhere.
Yeah, I felt like the whole fight with Bakudo was more of a climax than the one with like Harold, because Harold was just kind of trying to trying to antagonize him like on the rooftop and like shooting at him, and that was pretty much it. It didn't really feel like much of a much of a really climactic battle or anything like that. So it would have definitely been better had we gotten like Danny fighting somebody who was on par with him in terms of skills, and there's some epic fight between the two of them. That would have been awesome, but unfortunately, that's not what we got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt like that was supposed to be the fight with Davos, but
Yeah.
it was kind of a throwaway. And another thing, I mean, I don't want to keep harping on it, but even in that fight with Davos, we're supposed to believe that the Iron Fist is the master fighter of, the gathered combatants, but never ever in this show, because of the poor action directing and because of the poor acting from Flint Jones in the action scenes, I always felt like he was not on par with everybody else, even though I'm supposed to believe that he had those skills. When I watched it, I was like, oh, Davos would whip him. Bakudo would whip him. Even Colleen would whip him. Like,
Yeah, Danny definitely does not feel like he's like the all-powerful thing he's made out to be, really.
Yeah,
Except
didn't
for when
like
he has Iron Fist.
there was a guy who attacked him in like a storeroom or something, and he was having a hard time fighting him. And I'm like, he's a normal guy. He's a normal dude, and he uses the
Just use
fist.
your Iron Fist.
He uses the fist, and he breaks like his knife, and that's it. And I'm like, wow, I'm pretty much
But you're talking about
underwhelmed.
the hospital archives.
Yeah, that part. And it's like this guy.
Also,
Who is this random guy who's like on par with Danny? It's fucking
Yeah.
weird.
also during when he's in the asylum too, and I know it's also because they gave him the drugs, but like you would have thought that he'd be able to kind of easily just break himself out of there, but that took like a while for him to even do that. So
From like 2 episodes.
yeah, like, yeah, 2 episodes is just him in the fucking like mental place. But anyways, I guess we should probably move on.
Yeah.
Number 11. Somebody want to read that? Or wait. Okay, number 12. Never mind.
Yeah, number 12.
Somebody read number 12.
If they did create an Iron Fist season 2, what would you want it to be like? Okay,
Not
for the
existent.
most,
That's gonna be hard.
not like Iron Fist season 1, that's for sure.
Yeah,
That's
I think
easy.
I kind of went over this.
Yeah. Okay, so they need to basically start back at the beginning of this foundation, and they need to say, back to the drawing board. We're going to scrap everything that made the first show bad, and we're going to try to reinvigorate it and bring in actual actors that can actually do martial arts. And then, I mean, if they don't get rid of Finn Jones, which at this point I don't think they're going to, at least have him wear the mask because it conceals his face. You could easily put a stuntman in there. He could do all the work. It would be no problem. And then they need to fix the camera work because once again, like Say Something Nice has said, the cuts get very jarring. Like you see Danny doing a move and it's like, what just happened? It's like, it's fast. It's so instantaneous that you can't keep up with it. And the last thing is, don't make Danny mopey because it doesn't really feel like Iron Fist with this guy moping around saying how, so he's feeling sorry for himself, and it just doesn't feel like this whole big superhero thrill that I would like it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
here.
I just-
Pretty much agree with everything you said.
Same.
Yeah. Real quick though, this kind of deviating from the question though, but it just hit down on me. With him doing all the vigilante work, why would he put on a mask?
I don't
Because he's
know.
Danny Rand. I don't know.
Like maybe
This-
maybe he can. Okay, so maybe we can make the excuse that, okay, the monks in Kung Lung, they trained with these masks on. They could always make up some stuff like, this is a ceremonial, privilege to have this on, and you could just have them wear the mask from there. Like, especially if they go back and discover Kung Lung, because I think they are going to. It just moved somewhere, but they do need to discover. It did move. It moved somewhere. Someone got in there and they said, yeah, we're gonna kill all these guys here, and you can't get back. But they could always do something like that. He goes back to Kung Lung somehow,
That's what
somewhere.
I thought would happen if they did do a season 2.
Nah, that shit got bombed.
That was actually pretty funny, and that's a hilarious cliffhanger in my opinion. Like, I didn't know what the hell was going on at first.
Got blown up or whatever. Like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, they don't want him to go back for sure.
Okay.
But we can move on to the next question, question 13. Well, this is pretty much a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's easy.
Oh,
How would you rank this in comparison to the other Netflix shows?
It's the best.
Flash.
Bottom.
It's the best.
Yeah, this is like
Who's this?
a few tiers below all the other ones.
Few tears, man. Nah, son.
It's deep in the
It's
That's a
ground.
lot more tears.
It's definitely the worst.
Yeah,
Also garbage.
I mean, I try to, find these little nuances about Jessica Jones, but I actually really enjoyed Jessica Jones. I don't know why so many people say, oh, it's the worst ever, you have to deal with this, but they had a very interesting villain with Kilgrave, whereas Iron Fist does not have that at all.
You know what's
Yeah.
funny though?
Yeah,
Well, Jessica Jones has decent writing too.
yeah, it does. Like,
You know
very...
what's funny?
Go ahead.
After watching Iron Fist though, I immediately started watching Jessica Jones again right after.
Really? No. Interesting. Not a
It
coincidence.
suggested it to me. Did it suggest it to you?
Yes, it did.
as soon as the last episode stopped, it said, "Do you want to watch Jessica Jones? We apologize for that. Go ahead and get that taste out your mouth."
But yeah, I think personally, when it comes to Iron Fist, it's so much stuff you want to like about it, but when it comes to watching it, it starts to really sink in that they could have done better. So yeah, I definitely think this is the worst of the Netflix shows. Hopefully, and it's like someone said on Twitter. They said that Marvel can't have a hit every time. With every Daredevil, with every Captain America, the Winter Soldier, there's either an Iron Fist or an Age of Ultron.
Fan Forster.
Well, that
Yeah,
doesn't
we don't
count because
count
that's
that.
Fox. But
Yeah,
we don't
Iron
count
Man
that.
too.
Oh yeah, Iron Man
And
2 was not that
two.
great.
Iron Man 2 still had redeemable qualities like the action scenes, despite being 30 minutes worth of action.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
but
it
it
still has
was,
redeemable
a
qualities.
AAA movie title, so
Yeah,
you
it
know.
definitely ranks down there a little bit. But when it comes to this, like I said, Marvel can't have a hit every time. So I mean, they could improve, but that remains to be seen.
It's true they can't have a hit every time, but this one just hurts me personally because I love martial arts films so much. I was so excited to see it in a show and try and hit mainstream audiences and get in preparation for Defenders. And it's just a bummer that they really dropped the ball.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
All right,
And
so
now we have the last question. Another no-brainer. In closing, how do you feel about the overall story of Iron Fist? Well, we kind of covered it a little bit, but I'll say it again. A lot of missed opportunities, a lot of shots being called that weren't that great when it comes to some of the characterization.
Okudo.
Yeah, Bakudo coming out of nowhere. Some of the stuff that Ward did, definitely joy. Definitely
oh
joy.
yeah, I'm almost repeating myself here, but they really could have, if they had cut down the stuff with the company significantly, they could have had a lot more time to just do so many other things. That was in the comics. They could have put it into the show, but instead they spend so much time on that it's
Yeah.
it just gets so like, yeah, I just don't want to see. It's just like I dreaded seeing that every time. I'm like, please don't go back to the company. I don't care. Like do the Iron Fist stuff. It's like I really didn't like that. So
Yeah, they
They
tried to
wouldn't have
make an
had to
interesting
rush.
subplot, but it didn't work.
They wouldn't have had to rush like Bakudo, and they wouldn't have had to rush Davos.
yeah,
they could have
exactly.
they could have given us an opportunity to where the way it ends with Davos and Joy plotting, well, maybe they could take some time to develop those characters fostering, some kind of hatred to Danny so that it's not the dumbest twist in the world.
You know
Where it's
who was
like,
also
some
a
of these
low
people who
ball?
we saw 5 minutes earlier want to kill Danny Rand. It's like, well,
Yes, yeah. You know what also was a low ball though? Claire and Davos though, because they had some kind of like back and forth conversations going on. Like, oh, there's something going on here. Like, are they gonna, do the do's? I'm like, but nothing happens.
nah, Claire's Luke's.
Man, Claire has everybody. Okay.
Man, Davos. Okay, let's talk about. Let's
Davos
see
is
that.
a monk though.
Let's see that in Defenders. Let's see Davos hitting on her, and then Luke shows up, and Luke just wrecks him.
That would be actually pretty funny.
That's
That's
kinda
like a
funny,
funny
too, because
image.
It's kind of funny too because I wasn't kind of Danny supposed to be a monk, or he was a monk, and I mean, as far as I know, he can't be doing any doing
A celibacy. Okay, so that scene. You want to talk about bad writing? That scene where they wake up, and he's talking about it like he's, like a kid who doesn't know what sex is, but is like pretending like he does.
Yeah.
That was one of the cringiest things I've seen in a long time.
Oh yeah, when Colleen and him like just out of nowhere, just like, okay, you know what, get naked, we're doing it now.
Yeah, there wasn't like a natural build up to that. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and I
And
mean,
then they woke up, and he was like, "How was it? It was fun."
Those two, while I didn't mind it, I thought it could have been done so much better. It's just definitely one of the worst, really bad things about the show is, I feel like that could have been, it felt more natural. The whole thing really didn't. So I don't know. I didn't really like the chemistry between them as much.
Nah.
As yeah.
Yeah, and it comes back to this being done better in other shows. I mean,
Mm.
the relationship with Jessica Jones and Luke feels a lot more believable than Danny and Colleen. So
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
because
like,
they're both like they both
Good
were like
actors.
former
Oh,
well, yeah, that too, but like they both related that they were former superheroes or they had tried to be superheroes. Like they had something there. With Danny Rand and Colleen, it's just like he kind of just showed up at her dojo and began pestering her, and that's kind of went from there. Um, so yeah, so it's not really that there's nothing really to there's no
and then it
basis
was
for
like,
it.
that moment where she just like does everything he says, everything.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah,
you
it's
want to
like
go to
he
you
does
want
the
to go to
180
China?
also.
Okay.
Yeah, like it really it didn't that was one thing too. It's like she just kind of goes along with it, like okay, so now she's all okay with everything he does, but before she was getting on him for pretty much for the same thing, for like everything he does she got on for it, and now it's like, oh, I'm okay with it. Yeah,
Yo,
I don't know,
bad
it's
writing.
really bad,
So I think we can call it for this podcast. I had fun talking about the immortal Blunderfist. I think it was pretty entertaining for a discussion. So we're gonna wrap up and do outros. So say something nice. Where can we find you, buddy?
you find me on YouTube. Say something nice. Go ahead and check me out. You can also find me on Twitter, unfortunately at Tazinko because Twitter still sucks. And you can also find me on Instagram. I'm blasting them grams at Say Something Nice Reviews.
Mr. Brendan?
Well, you can catch the immortal Brando at Twitter as RKMagic514, and of course, here as usual with the Immortal Syndicate.
Next we have Captain Chaos.
You can find me on both YouTube and Twitter at Captain Chaos, and you can also find me on the Infinite Ammo Syndicate podcast. That's gonna be it's gonna have to get used to saying
That's
that.
gonna be hard to remember after being
Yeah,
TCP.
it doesn't really roll off the tongue as well as TCP does, or
Yeah, it's gonna take some getting used to.
IAS in the building, son.
IAS. It's gonna take some getting used to, but as soon as we get it, I think
That's
it'll
what
be
happens
okay.
with Brandon.
Yeah. So we're out of here. We're loading up our clips of Infinite Ammo, and we're gonna shoot our way out. So we will see you guys next time. Later.
See you guys.
Get your bandanas.
Bye.